in a situation that is very confusing. I must mention here that I've discussed a number of occasions with the governors the need to see this opportunity, seize it, let's run with it. From here, are we at this junction? Are we appeal to remove every taint of partisan politics from it? We've identified the model for livestock management. It is done in other countries, in other climes, successfully promoted. It created great economy and empowerment for ordinary people. Traditional livestock system must be reformed to add significant and sustainable value to Nigerian socio-economic growth and development. This presents a unique opportunity also to delineate and establish a separate ministry called the Ministry of Livestock Development. We develop the economy, give people opportunity to excel.
And so the story goes, the creation of the Ministry of Livestock Development. That is our focus this morning. So we've got three gentlemen joining us this morning to weigh in on this subject matter. Here in the studios, Professor Zachary Angagundu, who is the Vice Chancellor, University of Nkara, Benue State. I hope I got that spelled.
Yes, you got it.
I did?
Right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you for coming on this morning. Joining us virtually, Dr. Dele Ayemibo, who is a lead consultant, 3T Impex Consulting. He also does a lot in the agri sector. He will be weighing in virtually. And in our Kano studios, Usman Babangel Zerma is the National Secretary, Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, MACBAN. He will be joining us from our studios in Kano. Gentlemen, good morning to you all and welcome to the program. How can we see Mr. Ngilzama? I know that they advocated for some of this for a while in terms of wanting this ministry. Now, you have what you have been advocating for all this while. So I know you might have heard some of the reactions about some of this. So could you tell us, when you were thinking about this, I mean, when you spoke about this, that there has to be this ministry, what was the mindset? What was the intendment of your agitation?
Mr. Chamberlain, first of all, thank you for having me. You can see I'm excited today, very happy for the creation of this ministry. And I express my gratitude to God for making it possible, and my gratitude to President Ahmed Bola Tinubu and his government for establishing this ministry at the right time when we need it more than any other time. We thank him very much for that, and we appreciate him on behalf of His Eminence the Sultan of Sokoto, who is the Chairman Board of Trustee MACBAN, and the other Board of Trustee members, the ESCO, and every other member across the country. We thank Mr. President for giving us a ministry for livestock development in the country. This is what we have been agitating for, as you have rightly said. This is what we are looking forward for, and today we have it. We are so excited and very happy, where our hopes have been renewed under the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President. So we thank him very much. We appreciate him for giving us this very wonderful achievement, and a historic one for that matter. You see, Mr. Chamberlain, creating a ministry at this time is what we have been yearning for, because we felt over the decades the potentials involved in the livestock subsector has not been tapped by the country. While we compare it with our neighbors who had since served this Ministry of Livestock Development, and today they are reaping from the benefits of livestock. some of these countries' economy solely depend on livestock because it has not been neglected. It has been given the right attention it deserves. While we are talking of only 10% contribution to the country's gross domestic product in Nigeria, other countries that are reaping seriously are talking of about 30 to 50% of GDP contribution of those countries, creating more employment, creating more revenue, turning around the economies of this country. Okay. So today that we have this, we feel it will go a long way in tapping the potentials, the enormous potentials involved in the livestock value chain.
So all the other gentlemen who are also here, let's also get their thoughts, but you all will have opportunity to get clarifications from yourselves, if you will. But let me come to you, Dr. Ayemibo. You also deal in that subsector as well. How did you see the creation of this ministry?
I think it's a welcome development. The challenge we've had with herders and farmer issue in the past is the fact that we have cattle in Nigeria and herding cattle in Nigeria is supposed to be a blessing because of the potential, which I hope to mention because of this program. But that we're having this now, I think is a very, very much welcome development. And it's not just Nigeria that have it. India have similar, China have similar, Argentina have similar, and even some countries in Africa have a similar ministry. So I think it's a welcome development. The only challenge, the only concern I have, which I would like to express, is the ministry, in as much as the cattle rearers are major proponent of this kind of ministry. It should not just be focused only on the cattle. There's so many other areas in livestock that should be focused on, from poultry to piggery and a number of other areas with huge potential, so that we'll be able to tap into the potential, particularly as to generating forex. That, I think, is what we should do. But it's a welcome development, in my opinion. Thank you.
All right, Professor Ogundu, what do you think?
Well, I think it's not a welcome development. There are several reasons for thinking this way. First, there are close to 6-7 ministries in this country that are not helping anybody. I'll give just an example of the Ministry of Steel Development. That ministry has been in place and was responsible for midwifing Ajaokuta from 1980. By 1983, Ajaokuta was about 84% completion. That is when Shagari was kicked out. Up to the time we are speaking, 40 years and above, Ajaokuta has not taken off. It's not completed. And there's no reason to think that it will ever be completed. So the issue is not proliferation of ministries. That is not the issue. We don't need another ministry of livestock development. We don't. And of course, the context within which this ministry has emerged is a very frightening context. Just when we're about to do the election that ushered in President Tinubu, fortunately, Othman is on this panel. We are speaking together. He spoke first on the program. The Miati Allah had given a 7-point agenda.
Which means MACBAN or
MACBAN? No, yes, MACBAN, led by Othman and his own people. They had given a 7-point agenda to every presidential candidate, at least the 3 top runners. They gave it to them. And he had said that it is only the person who would agree to do what they want that they would support. He boasted then that headers had registered up to 15-16 million voters, and they would give these votes to the person who would do what they wanted. I want Nigerians to know that they had a deal with this current government, because even before Dr. Ganduje left Kano, he set up this kangaroo committee for reforms. MACBAN and Miete were not satisfied with the National Livestock Transformation Plan of the Buhari government. They were not satisfied. They criticized it. So Ganduje, before he left, he started this committee. And soon after that, they organized a national conference and then gave a report to the president. It is this report that the president today or yesterday said he was going to create this Ministry of Livestock Development. I want people to realize that Ganduje's committee, I think there were just about 26 people in that committee, 26. Only about 6 of them were not from the Hausa Fulani setup. Virtually every single one of them was a Fulani person. And now they want to tell us that if you create this ministry, it will stop the farmer header crisis. How will it stop it?
Well, Prof, just so we can get perspectives on this.
Yes.
Some of the things that have fueled this farmer header crisis are their practices, this roaming of cattle.
Yes.
And what the president said, at least from what we heard him say, is that this ministry will ensure that modern practices are being inculcated into these herders.
It seems you
and if, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Now, if these modern practices are inculcated into how they do their business, don't you think that would reduce the issues of cows coming into people's farms and things like that?
I'm trying to give you a context to what happened before the president said what he said yesterday. Some people sat because Ganduje invited them, about 26 of them. And I'm trying to tell you that only 6 of them were not Fulani people, only.
Is that what the issue is? You wanted more participation?
Of course. If you are sitting down to try to answer, to resolve this question, people who are farmers, crop farmers, have to sit on the table.
You mentioned
yesterday when the president was talking, more than half of what he was saying was about livestock. Where are the crop farmers? And of course, when Ganduje was setting up this committee, and when the committee submitted the report, they wanted this country to also take care of herders who are coming from outside Nigeria to come into Nigeria and be accommodated. If our farmers who are crop farmers cannot be accommodated in their own, on their own ancestral lands, what is the use of bringing people from outside this country to accommodate them in the name of herders? And of course, if the government is thinking about this, what of the people who are in the IDP camps for more than 10 years? No mention was made of them. What type of country do we want to have? That you will ignore other people? You will set up a committee, they are not there, then you bring up a ministry.
Let's bring in Mr. Ngazama. So since you made reference to him. So, Mr. Ngazama, could you go ahead and respond to what he said?
Well, you see, to me, the professor is being parochial in his thinking. He has narrowed his thinking. Instead of him to widen up, look at the livestock issues broadly, he is looking at it from the sentimental point of view of Fulanis being the pastoralists. It's not our choice to be pastoralists. It's a matter of destiny. It's a coincidence that the cattle ownership in the country belongs to 95% of the cattle ownership in the country belongs to the Fulanis. It's not a matter of choice, it's just a coincidence. If it were a matter of choice, we would not choose to be pastoralists. Maybe we will choose to be some other professionals rather than being pastoralists. So that is a coincidence. So instead of him to look at it broadly from the point of view of livestock as an entity is now looking at it from the point of view of livestock belonging to Fulanis, which is a coincidence. Anyway, not a matter of choice. So, you see, if he will...
Mr. Ngazama, you know, just so we can address some of the fears that he mentioned, he said that when this committee was set up, when the conversation about stopping farmer-herder conflict was being had, that croppers were not involved. It seemed as though that more people, the bigger constitution of that committee, of that meeting, were herders. So they feel left out of the situation. Do you agree or disagree with him on that?
I don't agree. The committee comprises of about 30 members. I'm also a member of the committee. All professionals from all aspects of livestock were drawn into the committee. Some are Igbos, some are Yorubas. There is no sentiment that is not covered by that committee. So the committee is not about choosing Fulanis. It's about choosing professionals who will add value, who would add quality to the work of the committee. And that is what Ganduje had done. He has gone around, made a lot of consultation to choose those that matter in the livestock development of the country, not thinking about bringing in Fulanis. Now, the implementation committee has been inaugurated yesterday. I was not a member of the implementation committee, being leader of the umbrella body of the pastoralists. And so it goes. So you see, the professor, as an educated person, should be looking at the livestock in a broader perspective, looking at it on how, if tapped, if managed very well, can turn around the economy of the country. I am telling you, if the government can organize, develop the livestock subsector of the economy, it is enough to turn around the economy of the country in a way that the economy can even depend on livestock with the population of livestock that we have in the country. We didn't like the National Livestock Transformation Plan under Buhari's administration, because throughout the 8 years of Buhari's administration, while we are speaking of over 500 billion spent on agronomy for agriculture, how much was spent on livestock? Almost nothing. Go and have a look at the state budgets of livestock across the nation. You realize that if they budget something at all, it will not be more than vaccination of the cows. Is this the only thing that we need in the livestock? We need to develop the production aspect of livestock, the processing aspect, the management of the markets, the transportation aspect, so much things that are involved in livestock, in addition to the security implications that is today affecting the livestock subsector of the economy. That is why we have been agitating.
Ngazama, we're going to come back to you in a bit, but I want to be able to get Professor to talk about a few other things. He has mentioned what he said earlier. But just so we can get what you think what do you think the ultimate plan is? Because you sound as though there has been a lot of things they've been doing. They created the Scots, they did this, they did that. What do you think the ultimate plan is? Because for many people, we've seen livestock development in other parts of the world, where in Pakistan, they have that Turuga, where everything cow is sold, from hide to milk to cheese. And then the concept of, you know, coordinating this properly so that it can actually help generate income like we see in other parts of the world. But you're saying, you know, you're saying in many ways that there's something else going on here. What do you think the ultimate plan is?
Well, the ultimate plan is to satisfy what the Fulanis want in this country.
Which is?
Which is, they just want to be roaming about with their cows, and then they want to grab lands in other places. Every other person knows that pastoralism, the way it's practiced by the Fulanis, is not sustainable. Every single person knows this. Every person knows this. But now you can hear what Baba is saying, what Baba Usman is saying, that because they are spending so much on other aspects of agriculture, they should also spend so much on cattle. But we ask, if you are not breeding, and in truth, the Fulanis are not breeding, they are just buying cows from Potiskum. which is the biggest cattle market in West Africa, and they are just roaming with these cows, eating free fodder, free food, free grass, drinking free water. What besides veterinary expenses, what else do they want? What we want is for them to breed these cattle.
Listen to what the
for
president...
them to breed these cattle, they have to stay in one place.
So here's what the president said.
They don't need a ministry to do that.
He said that traditional methods of livestock farming will need to be reviewed. He said he was going to do this. It will need to be reviewed and repositioned with the support of stakeholders, which includes state governments, in order to open up new opportunities for growth and prosperity. So those archaic methods, with the ministry, you don't think they can better...
No, you don't need a ministry to do that. You don't need a ministry to do that. You need just a policy framework to be able to do that. I have told you before that if we think that we have issues in this country, and then we can throw ministries at these problems, it's not going to work.
All right.
We have thrown the education ministry, we have thrown the power ministry. There's no light in this country.
Okay. Prof,
let's bring in an issue of ministry.
Dr. Ayemibo, you've heard both perspectives from both guests. What do you think?
It's interesting, the conversation. I'm looking at it purely from economic perspective. I made a statement which I think is the fear that, or the concern that the Prof has, the fact that this is being driven by the cattle and herders in the country. But like your colleague mentioned there, the president already said that this ministry is supposed to ensure that the modern practice in the rearing of cattle or livestock management should be deployed. I think we should give the president the benefit of the doubt and allow this ministry to try. We depend a lot on oil in this country. Demand for oil as at last year was about $1.5 trillion. Livestock alone in the world, the demand is about 500 billion. Nigeria can do a lot in that space. If there is a lot of budget being made in the agri ministry, and good chunk of it is going into crop farming, and little is going into livestock, and now we're having a ministry that is focusing solely on livestock, I think it should be our responsibility as citizens to ensure that this ministry does not just focus on farming.
From your perspective,
and ensure that other parts.
When you say, Dr. Ayemibo, when you say that you heard what the president said and then we should allow it to thrive, what, from your perspective, do you think is the modern practice that the president was talking about?
In my opinion, what he's saying is the fact that these cattle, not just cattle, but let's talk with cattle. Now, since that's a bone of contention, will not have to be moving up and down again, because in fact, if they are more productive, the cattle are more productive when they are not expending their energy in moving up and down. So if we put them in one location, it becomes a lot easier for them to be able to generate the kind of result they are looking for. So I think it's extremely important that we ensure that that's I said, it's the responsibility of the citizen to ensure that the modern practice is what is being enforced this time around, that the cattle will not have to be moving up and down again.
Let's find out from Mr. Ngazama if that is their thinking when they were asking for all of this. So, Mr. Ngazama, could you tell us then, is this creation of the ministry going to stop herders from moving from one place to the other?
Chambly, modernization of the production aspect of livestock is the more reason why we have been agitated for a ministry in order to modernize the entire livestock production system in the country in a way that it will benefit both the producers and government at the same time. We are not talking about the development of either Fulanis or pastoralists. We are looking at the larger picture. Today, we are talking of Lagos consuming 6,000 cows on daily basis that are coming from the north. This is just Lagos. Cows are taken to everywhere in the southern part of the country. Just think of the huge investment involved in it. 6,000 cows on daily basis coming from the north. And the north sells, the Fulani sells live cows, while the entire value chain benefit is benefited in the southern part of the country where the cow is being processed. We don't benefit nothing. because the entire value chain is there. That is one. And I am surprised the professor's sense of reasoning is being blinded by sentiment. I'm surprised because he's talking of land grabbing. Even in the northern part of the country where the pastoralists belong, they don't have land. They don't care about land. They stay in the forest. When development reaches them, they move further into the forest. They don't care about land. If you talk of land, I always laugh. Why are they looking for land?
Mr. Ngozama, I hear you. I understand the point you're making.
Yeah.
But I did ask you, because that's the impression people have, is the creation of this ministry going to stop herders from moving around, encroaching on farms and causing
If the right
fights?
people are put to manage the activities, to manage the activities of that ministry, if good representative professors are put there, I am sure it will going to work to stop all this movement. We are never against settlement. We are for settlement, but what model of settlement? We just have to evolve a model of settlement to stop this roaming about looking for preferred, because it is not going to be sustained. The population is growing, and it will continue to grow against a land that doesn't increase. So this calls for an effective planning on the land. We are never opposed settlement.
Assuming that then happens, what is the thinking of your group? Because, I mean, you are part of those who are calling for this.
Yeah.
Is the ministry going to compel state governors to give them land? Because the Land Use Act stipulates that the land is under control of the state
Do they need the state government to give them land? We have areas that are dedicated as grazing reserves. We have about 415 of them all located in the northern part of the country, covering about 6 million hectares of land. There are some encroachment in them, but if you minus out the encroachment out of the total number we have, you will still have about 5 million hectares of land that are dedicated for grazing, have laws on them for grazing. The lands are there. Do we need anybody's land? The reason why we are calling for the protection and preservation of those lands is if we are going to settle the pastoralists, they need a land to be settled. Since there are dedicated areas that are designated for settlement for grazing, those areas can be used to settle the pastoralists. But there has to be a model of settlement, because this roaming while looking for prey pasture is not going to be sustained, even in the northern part of the country, because of the increase of the population, because of challenges of climate change and what have you. So there has to be an effective planning for the two professions, farming and herding, to coexist peacefully.
Well, you know, let me ask let me begin with you, Mr. Yemibo. You know, the conversation around all of these, you know, farmer herder thing and all is perhaps not the issue. The issue here, and I'd like to focus on Mr. Ayemibo, if you can hear me. The issue is the value chain. Can you hear me, Mr. Ayemibo?
Yes.
Great. So, for you, what are the issues here? This matter of livestock development isn't new. Up until, I think was it 2021, when the federal government under the Buhari administration came up with it was actually between 2019, and it was supposed to run between 2019 and 2028, the National Livestock Transformation Plan. It sounded like a good idea. It was an initiative of the National Economic Council under the vice president of the day. And up until now, from what you know, was there any significant progress made on that plan?
No, because it was resisted because of a number of issues having to do with the fact that it's not likely going to solve the problem, which was the major concern that the herders have, who are the proponents of this. Now, you know, sometimes when we look at the issue in our country, I know that this is a very touchy issue, but we should also think through on how we can provide solution to it. More importantly is how it benefits not just the Fulani herdsmen, not just the people that are within the space, even the country in general. So with this arrangement now we have a minister that can be engaged on what needs to be done to be able to solve this problem. Now we can have a proper budget for that ministry that will ensure that whatever practice that needs to be put in place to ensure that we minimize or to a large extent put an end to the farmer elder class, that can happen. But
Mr. Ayimibo, just a second. I'm trying to de-emphasize, just a second if you can hear me. I'm trying to de-emphasize the sentiment and look at the business of it, just as you said the other time. Livestock is a business. And it is human beings, excuse me, who have invested their money in this business. As at the last count, and I think it was even as late as last year, May or thereabout, it's in the news that the livestock value chain in Nigeria is worth 30 trillion naira. Now, it is human beings, businessmen, private sector people who are invested in it. In fact, we also gathered that the hides and skin value chain alone is tremendous on its own for bags, belt, and so many other things like that. So at the end of the day, it's not government that is going to spend its money to buy livestock. It's human beings. It's human beings that go around all over the place. So that's why I'm asking the question, what is it that's going to make a difference now? Because it's a plan. Even this ministry itself is a plan. All that is expected from the livestock transformation plan was for government to provide an enabling environment. This ministry also, in my opinion, is supposed to provide an enabling environment. So if the livestock transformation plan didn't work because of the issues, what's the assurance that a Ministry of Livestock Development is going to make any significant difference?
Because now they will be focused more on policy to ensure that the sector thrives. For example, egg now is about 150 to 200 because of the high cost of importation of the feed used in that industry. Now these people can have opportunity to engage directly with the government so that solution can be provided to their peculiar challenge of bringing in the raw materials and what are they need to be able to feed the poultry. Leather in Nigeria, for example, are exported, and the exported leather used to produce goods that have been imported back into Nigeria. This ministry can then begin to put into place policy to ensure that the leather are produced at a competitive rate that can be used in Nigeria to be able to generate enough income into this country. I'm talking about now in terms of FX generation. So what I see is policies that this ministry can come up with, which the citizen and the people in this way have to engage the ministry to ensure their pain point, the issue addressed, not just the farmer elder, from the poultry to the piggery to the people in the leather and the value chain altogether. So I feel because now we have a ministry who is not thinking about agri, because agri and farming is huge on its own. Now you have only livestock. So we can then begin to take each of them, you have directories for each of these areas, including the value chain, and begin to put in place policy, but in consultation with the practitioner in the private sector. What are your pain points? So what do we need to do? What does the government to do to support and be able to get all these things done?
Okay. Well, Prof, let me ask you as well, because it's every time we talk about livestock in Nigeria over the years, the focus has always been cattle. And, pretty much that department and no more. But then, as has all just been explained here now by Mr. Ayimibo, the value chain is huge. Includes poultry, includes goats and rams that other parts of the country are also big on. So do you think it is, a number of people will also question why we need to create a Ministry of Livestock outside of the Ministry of Agriculture, as we did create the Ministry of Water Resources outside of the Ministry of Agriculture. So is it a problem of policy? Is it a problem of personnel? Is it a problem of efficiency that those initiatives didn't work before, as you said? Because indeed, if you look at it, the value chain is huge and greatly advantageous to the people.
Well, I agree with you. Let me just say this point. No person who is conscious enough would deny the fact that there's a huge value chain in livestock production. The value chain is huge, and we certainly need to improve on it. But the point I have been trying to make is we don't need another ministry. It looks to me as if people just want another ministry. Of course, if you create another ministry, you will have a minister, you will have directors, you will have a permanent secretary, you will have all sorts of bureaucracy which would be managed with a lot of money. But let's not get this impression that once you have a ministry and you throw money to it the way money is thrown to other ministries, things are going to work. We threw money into something like Anchor borrower system just to improve on our rice production. It was a terrible mess. People who were not farmers went there and grabbed this money, and they cannot pay back, and no person can hold them to account. What we need is just policy. We don't need another ministry. That's the point I'm making. And of course, Baba had made something, a point. He says I'm sentimental. But why would I not be sentimental when you are going back to grazing reserves? Some of these grazing reserves you are counting, and you think they are huge. They were not even gazetted. So if you went to Benue State, for example, and then you are talking about grazing reserves that are not gazetted, and you think the state should give you right to enter into those grazing reserves, there must be something wrong with your head. Because we have gone past that. That is the reason why we needed more people on that Uganduje committee who would also say that, where are you going to get this land if you are thinking about a countrywide space for animal production? And then for those who talk about chicken, who talk about goats, let me just make this last point. Those who talk about chicken, who talk about goats, you heard Baba say that 95% of livestock in this country is controlled by the Fulanis. So if they create this ministry, and you are that hapless chicken farmer or goat farmer somewhere, you will not have a voice in that ministry.
Maybe there was a bit of a misunderstanding, Prof. Because if I get Baba right, what he said was that 95% of those in the cattle subsector of the livestock value chain. But I mean, the point that you are making is made there. Is it possible for us, Prof, to depoliticize this issue and look at the developmental side? I understand the sentiments. No. Just a second, Prof. It should be possible. Here is why. Okay. Governor El-Rufai, while in office, had some consultations with some people from the Netherlands to start a dairy business for the government, facilitated it for, in the state, just so that we can milk the value chain, so to speak, in a manner of speaking. Now, if it was possible for governors all over the nation to scale up such things all across their states, and I mean, if governments at the various state levels, because the president also made that reference, if the governors would take the initiative themselves to control the narratives, wouldn't it be possible for us to de-emphasize these sentiments and look at the value chain in the interest of the country and in the interest of the future?
My brother, these are not sentiments. These are not sentiments. If you are dealing with an economy that pushes away other people from their ancestral lands, if you are dealing with an economy and a process that kills people, if you are dealing with an economy and a process that has put people in IDP camps for more than 10 years, and government is not looking their way, how would you ever expect that people will not appreciate the politics and the complications of the politics around this type of thing? It's not about sentiments. You kill somebody, you put people in the camps. There are people in this country internally displaced more than 10 years. No person is looking at them. And then you are talking about
Just a second.
They should depoliticize this.
Yeah, Prof. It's a valid point that you've made. So let me talk to Mr. Usman Baba. You have heard, the Prof, and I know that, you have your own opinion about his perspectives to this issue. But then I don't know if it is possible to look away from the facts that he has stated. You may want to speak to it. Now, there are... What do you see happening? How do you think these sentiments can be de-emphasized so that we can all focus on the values here? Because indeed, just as you said, it is easy for anyone to look at just the sentimental side and not look at the business side, given the things and the news reports that have made the rounds over the years. So, Mr. Usman Baba, how do you see us de-emphasizing that, speaking to the sentiments and getting everyone to look in the direction of the values that we're talking about here, without necessarily playing down on the importance of those sentiments as well?
To me, can you take the question back? Can you repeat the question, please?
I can, but can you hear me well?
I can hear you now.
Good. I'm saying you heard the Prof and you heard his sentiments, all of the things that he has said. How do you think we can let people know that the past can go to the past and we can build a different, better future with this initiative of the federal government, not necessarily playing down the sentiments, but saying that we can put the past where it is?
You see, part of the sense that the military will have to start with is sensitization of the public. Finding that missing communication link between farmers and herders, trying to bring them together. That will be the first assignment of this ministry before other things that will follow. And you see, the professor is making me laugh because the sentiment is coming out clearly. He is talking of Benue. We have IDPs in Benue that farmers are there. Because of the anti-open ranching establishment and this open grazing prohibition law that was established by Autumn. That law, even from the onset, it was made to fail because it's not going to do anybody any good. And today that we are speaking about the law, there is no one single established ranch in Benue, because not only pastoralists are dealing with cows in Benue, are dealing with livestock in Benue. Even the Tips and so many other tribes are dealing with cows. Even Autumn has cows in Benue. But there is no one single established ranch as I speak to you today in Benue. So nobody is happy about that. Nobody is happy that the farmers are kept in IDPs. And nobody is happy that the pastoralists have lost a huge amount of cows in Benue. This is what the law brought to Benue. But sentiment aside, let us look at the larger picture of livestock development in the country and what can livestock do for the economy of the country. As I told you, Chamberlain, we are never against settlement, but we have to evolve a model of settlement that can suit the peculiarity of those pastoralists. We have to talk of the grazing reserves, and if I will correct the professor, Benue has no grazing reserve. We have never mentioned Benue having a grazing reserve. All the grazing reserves we are talking about are those that are gazetted, that have laws on them. We don't speak on grazing reserve that doesn't have laws on them. When we speak about grazing reserves...
Now, we're talking about reforms in what everyone has described as a business, right? Livestock development is a business. Let us say, peradventure, that this whole reform and this ministry that is being created now, that the rules that will guide it will be, one, no more open grazing. You're not to be giving grazing reserves. Go and source your land and grow your cows and do your business by yourself. And then, with these things, no more entering into people's farms. You're not giving anything by the government. Go do your business, and we as a ministry will take care of you as business people. Would that be something that the Mieti cattle breeders will be okay with? Okay, I think we're having a bit of a technical difficulty there, but can you hear me, sir?
No.
Mr. Ngazelma.
I can hear you now.
I asked that if this new ministry comes with some rules that are guiding livestock in the country, one being no more open grazing, no more grazing reserves, go and get your own land and pay for it, and then we treat you as a business. As a ministry, we'll take care of you as you're running livestock as a business, whether it is cows or goats or chickens or pigs or whatever it is you're doing. Hold it as a personal business, go and get your own land, do your thing, and we support you as a ministry. Is that something that will be okay for the Mieti Ala Cattle Breeders Association?
There. If you are always talking of livestock as a private business, yes, I agree it's a private business. But even private investors who are coming into Nigeria to invest deserve some sort of attention, deserve some sort of assistance to attract them to come and invest in Nigeria. Airline business is a private business, but the government established airports, developed airports for the airplanes to land and take off. Even roads are flown on daily basis by commercial bus owners. These roads belong to government. They are run by private commercial bus owners to get money for themselves on a government road. On a government road, they run their businesses on a government-developed road. They run their businesses on a government-established airports. What makes the pastoralists different? That they cannot enjoy some sort of assistance from government as citizens of this country. This is where always the misconception is, because people are being blinded by sentiment against the pastoralists, who are mostly coincidentally Fulanis. It's not a choice that Fulanis are the cattle owners of this country. It's just a coincidence. It's never our choice. Right. If it were our choice, we would not choose to be cattle rearers in this country. But why are people
winding down now? Okay, so but Ms. Ngazelma, the thing about that is, I mean, it's a democracy, and policies have to be bounced off a lot of people before they come through, because you're not just, the cattle breeders are not in one space, they're moving around several places that concern several people. For instance, I mean, I do remember also that at the time, what the Oshibajo committee was talking about was ranching only. And then there were a narrative that the Ganduje committee snuck in open grazing that had already gone. So if it was just about ranching, I don't think that many will be where we are today. But when people keep saying sentiment, don't bring sentiment in, leave sentiment out, and talk about the business. So let me ask you then, for instance, now, according to the CBN, if Nigeria had maintained our market in the palm oil sector, that's our dominance in the palm oil sector, which we had once upon a time. He says by now the country will be earning approximately $20 billion annually. Now this is business. This is real business here. So if tomorrow people come in and say, okay, if you set up Ministry of Livestock, we want Ministry of Palm Oil, there'll be no end to this.
Well, you see, under agriculture, we have agronomy and livestock. Any other thing falls under agronomy, and animal issues fall under livestock. There are two different things under one ministry. While we are speaking of over 500 billion spent on agronomy during the Buhari's last 8 years, nothing was spent on livestock. We need a balance between the two. And when we talk of a balance, we are not talking of a 50-50 balance, because even the pastoralists are also farmers. When we talk of striking a balance, we are talking about something like 70-30. At least if you give agriculture, agronomy 70% attention, less livestock also has about 30% attention. That is the balance we are looking for. We are not being selfish, because we know majority of the pastoralists, of the livestock owners are also farmers. But that aside, let's look at the broader picture of what livestock can do to the economy. This is what we are talking about. That is why we have been agitating for a ministry, so that the potentials involved in the livestock subsector can be tapped for the interest of the economy of the country, not for the interest of the pastoralists alone. The pastoralists as citizens want to stay in one place. They want their children to go to school. They want to enjoy like any other citizen. They are robbing the wild, looking for free pasture as a necessity, as the only thing they do.
Yeah, but,
they know to do.
Is it so? Are you saying that cannot be achieved under the Ministry of Agriculture?
It can never be achieved under a mayor department, under the Ministry of Agriculture. Livestock was placed under an animal husbandry department.
What is this ministry going to do
the funding
that
is
the
not
Ministry
adequate,
of Agri cannot do?
the personnel are not adequate, and the efficiency is not there. And coupled with the security phenomenon that is coming into it now, we'll need a dedicated ministry to tackle all these things holistically at the same time. That is why we have been agitating for a ministry.
Okay, let me get Prof's final thoughts before we go.
Well, my final thought is this. We don't need a ministry of animal livestock development before we can bring about certain changes in the livestock sector. We don't need that. I also want to say that what the person who has cattle needs is land, pasture, water, and veterinary services. Land can be procured privately. You have to buy it. No person will give you land because there's no land anywhere to give to anybody.
You talked about grazing routes.
Yes. Then they need pasture. Pasture is available and it's not in the wild, in the bush, as people roaming with cattle would want. Institutions like Shika and Zaria have developed pasture, which the pastoralists are refusing to use. Then, of course, they need water. You can't be roaming about with your cows to share water holes with human beings.
All right. We want to thank Usman Bamangozama, National Secretary, Métis Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, that's MACBAN, and Dr. Dele Ayemibo, Lead Consultant, 3T Impacts Consulting, and Professor Zachary Gundu, Vice Chancellor, University of Mka in Benue State. Thank you all for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Business Morning on Sunrise, it comes up next.